Hey everybody, and welcome back to Percentile Vice. My name is Emily, and I will be your keeper tonight for our continuation of The Wrecked Temple. I'm joined by Steve and John.
Hi.
So, this is our third installment of The Wrecked Temple. In previous installments, you guys found yourself on a private jet headed to Morocco after winning a contest of some sort. Through a number of different clues and strange happenings, you concluded that things weren't quite right on this plane, which culminated with the fact that the plane began to plummet. And Steve turned orange.
I'm very orange.
I'm going to try to fix that.
I'm so extremely orange. All my friends say I'm the orangest.
Super great.
It's perfect.
Perfect. But the culmination of the strange happenings on the plane ended with the pilot and the one stewardess.
The pilot?
The pilot.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's what we call it in my world. Do not question me.
Yes, ma'am.
Parachuting out of the plane and allowing it to nosedive directly into a massive whirlpool. This whirlpool spun you around and jostled you about, all the way depositing you down into some kind of underwater cavern where a reverse water muffin hung above you.
The reverse water muffin.
The reverse water muffin. If you don't understand reverse water muffins, I'm disappointed in you for having not watched the previous.
And we invite you to watch episode 2.
Because it's well worth it for nothing more than the reverse water muffin.
Or was it the end of episode 1 where reverse water muffin?
It's happened consistently.
2.
Yeah, it was 2.
It's 2. You guys did a little exploring when you were approached by, weirdly enough, a very well-dressed, stilettoed, beautiful woman who invited you to sit in on a welcoming seminar. After some intense introductions involving some chairs being thrown and some people held at knife point and gunpoint and things of that nature, it eventually settled out, and you were explained that you had signed up for this contest and failed to read your terms of service, which allowed them to sacrifice you to their patron god. And in order to open this large sigil gate, they needed some kind of sacrifice that fit the parameters of whatever they're looking for. They weren't super specific. And then they exited. You guys spent some time sabotaging the doorway out to what you can only assume is some kind of underground train system. That's how they're coming in and out. And just before we left last time, you heard a blood-curdling scream coming from the caverns somewhere of young Jasmine, who you met on the plane, who has been, up until this moment, missing. So, we'll take it from there. The floor is yours.
Oh, geez. You know, the way I see it is, in I don't know how many hours, 12 or so, they said in the morning, they're coming back through this door, unless, you completely skewered it, and in which case they're not coming back through there. But we got to get out of here. There's 2 ways out. That door, when they eventually open it, or we find another exit. So, I don't know. I'm not going down there, so how about we go check out the tunnel we haven't checked out?
Yeah, maybe we'll find Jasmine, because it doesn't sound like she's been dealt with nicely, as they tried to make us think.
They said she was fine. Oh, jeez. This gets more and more screwed up every time. All right, so let's leave this here cavern, and we're going to take an immediate left, if my memory serves, to meet to the tunnel we have not yet explored.
So there are 2 tunnels you have yet to explore.
All right, there was the really long one that we saw Jasmine's blood trail go down.
Correct. That's back kind of where you started. Mm-hmm. And then just outside of this room, if you were to turn left, it would take you down another tunnel system. So you can either turn right, head back the way you came.
Could we tell which way the scream came from?
Sure. Make me some kind of listening check to see if you can maybe pinpoint in the caverns which way you heard it.
That's a failure for me. I think the sounds were echoing off the walls for me. I couldn't tell which way it was coming from.
It's a failure for me as well.
Yeah, so as you guys are trying to kind of pinpoint, you're telling that you can know that there's a lot of cavern systems.
What about
here.
Evan? Did Evan hear?
Let's see if Evan heard. Let me pull up Evan's stats here.
Stats.
stats.
Evan, could you tell which way that came from, man? Oh, geez, we are totally screwed here.
No, he rolled a 95.
You're useless, Evan. Sit back down there on that bench with Ted Alfred.
Ted Alfred.
I couldn't tell where the sound was coming from, but we can assume it was probably where we think she was. So maybe we'll start there.
Well, just give us another. We're shooting in the dark here, quite literally.
Literally.
And plus, if it's a long, long tunnel, we may find an exit or something useful in it.
I got it. So let's grab up our bag. Who knows? We find a way out. We won't be back here. So grab all our stuff. Anything useful on the desk around here that maybe we want to throw in our bag and take with us?
Yeah. So in the desk, you can find basic office supplies, letter openers, sticky notes.
Taking the letter opener. Yeah. Those are like daggers.
It is actually a solid letter opener, like a stainless steel, decently sharp, not, like slice your hand open sharp, but with enough force could puncture skin. But in the bottom drawer, you do find a small handgun.
What?
With one clip of ammunition, fiery bits.
So, Barney, you know how to use one of these things?
I sure do. Did some training while I was in South America.
Because I got a piece already. So why don't you take this one?
Okay.
Unless you'd rather give it to Evan over there.
Can tell you this now: Evan does not look like he's ever held a firearm.
Yeah, it was.
He might be better at bear pong.
It was sarcasm from Nate Young there.
Okay.
I'm gonna take it and tuck it into my belt.
Okay. Evan is going to stand up. He's like, "Look, I can't do this. I'm gonna stay here. Watch the door. Keep things secure here. You can tell he just does not have any interest in exploring creepy dark tunnels, and he would rather stay behind. And he has kind of hunkered himself down in a chair as far away from Alfred as he can.
Geez, man, what if we find the way out there after a long walk down a long tunnel? Now you're expecting us to come back and get you, man? It's probably better if we stick together,
Oh, shit. Roll me a persuade or some other kind of interpersonal skill. You can use intimidation, anything that you might be decent at.
Fast talk?
I would take fast talk. Any kind of interpersonal skill. Mm-hmm.
I rub my hand upon his thigh.
Evan, looking mighty fine in that Abercrombie and Fitch.
Let's see, I'm not good at fast talk. I'm not good at charm. I'm not real good at persuade. Where's intimidate at? There it is. I'm going to try to intimidate him.
There you go. Okay. Give me
Damn it, Evan. You got to get your ass together. Pull it up. Oh, geez, man. Just come with us, man. It's best if we all stick together.
Get a bonus die for the fact that you have a firearm and he does not. To me, that's intimidating. If you have a gun and I don't, I'm going to listen to you more rightfully.
Yeah, I rolled a success, a 64 under a 65. And
nice.
My bonus die was a 6, so it's a 64 under a 65.
Nice. So, yeah, Evan kind of... Okay, yeah, fine. Great, dark, scary tunnels. Love it. Exactly how I wanted to die. And he just kind of hangs out behind you guys and waits to go. So.
Yeah, I know. To make him feel even better about things, I'm going to hand him the stainless steel letter opener and say, "Here, man, in case you need to protect yourself."
And he takes it readily and holds it directly in front of his chest, both hands, he is ready to just full on stab somebody, but in the worst way possible, the most ineffectual way.
That's perfect. You're doing it, geez, just right, man.
Thanks. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to go back to the main cavern, which has the shipwrecks, and go over to the entrance that was by the Viking longship, where we had tracked her blood trail to, and start going down that tunnel.
Okay.
Are we going to pass the plane crash?
Yes, you're going to enter into the same area as your plane crash, and to your right will be the opening up underneath the Viking longship that you guys have ascertained she has gone through previously.
And how high did you say the reverse water muffin was above our head here?
About 30 feet, maybe 40 feet. I'm not sure exactly how big planes are. Sounds reasonable.
So when we pass, I'm going to grab the most throwable looking piece of debris I can find and throw it at the water.
Okay. Are you just looking to hit the water, or do you need to make a roll because you're trying to do something specific with this rock?
I'm just trying to hit the water.
Okay. So when you hit the water, you notice that it's almost...
The only thing keeping it above our heads is surface tension.
You're dead.
And you've just broken the surface tension. The entire Atlantic Ocean comes falling down.
All right,
above
guys.
our head.
Great game. No, so it's actually a very strange effect. The piece of rock that you found was kind of smooth on one side, and as you toss it up, it almost does like a water skip across the top. But it does eventually plunge into the water in a very odd fashion. It almost looks like it's being like pulled up into the water, like reverse gravity, basically. And you see it swirl for a second with the water, and then it's gone out into the inky blackness of the ocean.
Well, that might be one way out if we don't find another. We just have to find a ladder.
Hold your breath. And hopefully the trip to the surface is shorter distance than you can hold your breath.
Make an idea roll. Or some kind of knowledge.
That is a 3.
Okay. I don't care what your score is in that. A 3 is... you are 100% certain, given how long it took the massive plane to get through that whirlpool, there is no chance of you making it to the surface alive. Without some sort of outside protection. You will not survive the trip. You are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meters below water level. There's no way.
Still, better option than being the sacrifice.
It is a better option than sacrificial, ritual sacrificing. But you know for a fact that without some sort of way to breathe, you will not reach the surface.
Okay.
I don't want you guys to go like jumping up into it and then be like, why'd I drown? Okay.
You have more creative ways of killing us.
I do. Much more fun ways, and that would be a letdown. So as you approach... A wet down. Gross. As you approach the Viking longship, you can once again see these bits of blood. They've dried, and a lot of the floor that was previously rather slick is beginning to dry. It's not by any means like bone dry, but a lot of the film over the tops of rocks and bits have begun to drip off and is beginning to kind of dry out in the area that you're in. And you can approach the longship and see the blood-smeared handprint and where you have previously removed a shield from the Viking longship. And then a very dark tunnel in front of you.
Using one of the flashlights, head down the tunnel.
Yep, I'll keep the gun ready this time.
Okay.
I'm doing that cool handgun flashlight thing.
Cool handgun flashlight thing. So, as you move down the tunnel, it begins to kind of weave in and out. It seems much more natural. It's still definitely cut, but it's not as uniform as the cavern that you were deposited into. It's not like side walls. There's jutted out bits of rock where they may have hit something that was too hard to cut through, or just kind of using the natural terrain to get through different bits of whatever this is carved out of. You can see bits of debris like anchors or, large pieces of lumber or pieces of metal still strewn about in various areas. And after a bit of ways, you do come across another airplane that is crashed in a offshoot hallway to your right. It's a smaller, almost like a 2-person passenger plane, where you only have the 2 seats and then a little bit of cargo room. Much older than the plane that you came on. And there is a workbench across the way in the hallway, well lit with tools and things like that, very similar to the one you found before. This plane looks partially disassembled, but it is blocking anything behind it. It is wedged very firmly into this tunnel.
Okay, is there a real ceiling over us?
Yes.
So this plane didn't fly down into here. It didn't get swooped down with water down into here. Somebody had to bring this plane into this tunnel.
The plane does look small enough, given the size of the tunnel that you're walking through, that it can move through it.
So it taxied down to this plane.
Give or take, something to that effect. It either made its way there via water travel, or was taxied or moved, or is either being disassembled or reassembled in this particular space. But it is in a partially disassembled state, but is fully blocking anything behind it. Would you like to continue on down the tunnel, or do you want to investigate the plane further?
I would like to check and see if it's either being assembled or disassembled. See what state the radio's in.
Okay, so make me a spot
radio
hidden.
roll.
A radio roll, please.
That's a success. 57 under 65.
Okay. So for your first answer, it does seem that it is being disassembled. Just judging by some of the ways that, things are being cut out or removed. You don't see anything having been like reattached, any new riveting, any new screwing or anything like that. Like it seems to all be, yes, I said screwing. It seems to all be being removed. As far as a radio, you're not finding very much in the way of advanced technology. As best as you can ascertain, this is probably early flight travel, the manual start propeller type deal. Really not capable of much in the way of technology. Any radio that would have been present does not seem to be present at this time.
Are there any indications of corporate connections on this plane?
Okay.
Like make, model, maybe the registration in the glove boxes. Believe it or not, planes of that size sometimes have glove boxes. What's the name of this evil company?
NAFRAM. So there is some logos available. They seem to be circular, angular, with multiple points of connection.
Do they bear any resemblance to the sigil that was painted on the floor over the drain opening?
They do. They're a bit worn, but they definitely have the same bearing of the sigil that you see scrawled across the floor.
Geez, Bernard, look at this, man. It's just the same symbol as the crazy folks back there and the shit on the floor. And, what did they call the creature? It's the gatekeeper or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any context to where the sigil is on this, in this particular instance?
So you do see it on the outside of the plane, almost like on the wings. Sometimes you would see different markings to be able to identify planes from underneath, things like that. It seems to be something in there. You're seeing it in a couple places inside, but mostly it seems to be either stamped or carved into cabinetry or into the dash. It seems more decorative in those places.
Now, I know when we saw it as a sigil, I think Bernard had tried like an occult roll or something. So this looks like it's being used more like a corporate logo type of thing. So I'm wondering if maybe a history roll would be allowed to see if we've ever seen or know anything about this.
Certainly, if he would like.
Anybody got good history?
Would anthropology?
Yeah, but it is going to increase your level of difficulty a little bit, because anthropology is the study of like peoples and societies. It's not so much focused on corporate entities. But I would accept it.
Well, I failed my history roll, 46 over a 5.
I'll
Damn,
try
so
a
close.
history instead of an anthropology, because all zeros.
Fumbled his history roll. Don't know
He
much
slips
about
and cracks his head on a rock,
history.
forgets his name.
He don't know much biology.
Yeah. So currently, without more context, what you currently are seeing is not ringing any bells for you. You do think maybe if you had more to go on, you might be able to connect some dots with your anthropology background. But right now, it's more...
So I'm going to pull out my little, the little notepad that I was, a little spiral bound at the top.
Your little
It fits
police
in my-
flip book?
Right.
Yeah.
Pull it out,
does.
take one sheet of paper and lay it over one of these little...
You can take like an
Because,
etching?
yeah, I'm just going to with the pencil kind of
Yeah,
do
certainly.
that thing that you do with the stuff and you get the thing.
Like
You know what
a
I'm talking
relief
about?
etching. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. You're able to do that with no problem. And now you have a pretty well-preserved copy of the sigil in your notebook.
Right. Look at me being all detective-y.
So detective-y.
Are there any emergency supplies on this plane?
There is not. There are some drawers and cabinets, but they are flung open, strewn about. They look like they have been ransacked. The entirety of the inside of the plane looks like it has been ransacked for usable, notable parts.
All right, last thing.
Mhm.
Well, I want to speak for you. My last thing. So this is a little biplane, right?
Mhm.
So I'm looking for the gas cap.
Okay.
And I'm going to open it up and try to see if I can determine if there's any fuel left in this thing.
Okay, make me a luck roll.
Poof, you're a luck roll. Luck, the one thing I'm really short on. That'd be a failure.
Do you want to take a gander, see if you find any fuel at the bottom of this tank?
Sure.
I'm trying to be fair and give them an option.
99.
So no, it's bone
I
dry.
fall into the gas tank.
He falls in. Drowns in the sewage. No, there is no gas in the gas tank. It seems to have evaporated out.
Does
Apparently
it
the
look
seal wasn't
like
good.
these seats might be flotation devices?
So they would not be the standard, safety type that are meant to be flotation devices. But you would guess, based on the construction, that they would act in a buoyant manner. They're not going to be like normal planes, where you can take the back off and but it's of materials that would definitely float if you're pretty
you
far
better take
underwater.
one because you don't want to end up with FOMO.
God damn it. All right. Anything else at this plane?
No.
Nope.
No.
But I'm going to enjoy my FOMO joke for a minute.
So stupid.
FOAMO. FOMO.
Okay. So,
Are the wheels on the plane?
Go round and round.
they are
Are there tools to take the wheels off?
across the way at the workbench, sure.
Think an air-filled tire will help get us to the surface faster than we can swim and maybe our breath will hold?
Maybe.
Maybe. Who's going to lug around an airplane wheel? We'll roll it along.
We could throw it into our friend. Maybe.
Our friend, you want Evan to carry the
No, the gatekeeper guy.
gatekeeper?
Good.
Could sharpen the propeller up.
A lot of improvised weapons here.
Okay, let's continue.
Yeah. On down the hallway.
Okay. So, as you continue down the hallway, it's a very short walk, but there is a room that begins to open up in front of you. As soon as I can get my stuff to do right. There it is. And in this room, there is a very large, very deep hole. Uncovered, unlike the other one. There's no grate. And when you look down, you can see a kind of glowing red dot in the very, very, very far below basin of this. Off to one side, you can see like the very well preserved remains of a hammerhead shark that is kind of decayed and just turned into this relic in one corner. You can also see several half intact human remains strewn about around this area, which is notable given that you have not seen any previously. But you also see young Jasmine laying on the ground to your right into another opening of a tunnel. And she is scrambling, trying to move herself along the rock, but she seems to be relatively injured.
Which way does she seem to be scrambling? Away from this room or towards this room?
Back into this room.
All right, I'm going to run over to her. Jasmine! Oh, jeez, we've been looking for you.
We gotta go. And she's like clutching one of her legs, which has a very large wound. She does not look like she could bear any weight onto one of her legs.
I'm going to pull her into this room. Oh, yeah, we'll go. That's what we're trying to do. Find a way out here, but we got to take care of that leg.
No, we have to run. We have to go right now. And she's clawing at you, trying to get you to move faster and move away. And as she's clawing at you, you feel one of those rumbles. And it is very, very close. You can see bits of dust from the ceiling above you start to cascade down as the whole room kind of... And then out of the darkness of the tunnel she was trying to come out, you hear a massive guttural... come out.
Let's get back to that plane.
I'm going to loop an arm under her shoulder and start helping carry her out.
So it's not that long a trip back to the little plane that we saw, and I'm going to try to get the four of us now into the cabin of that plane, shut the door if it's still operational, and then look at everybody.
Okay. So you begin running along the side of this hole, and the rumbling, whereas previously was intermittent and short, this seems to be almost continuous. There are moments where it feels like it slackens, but then it rolls right back in, almost like really intense thunder rolls during a storm, where it has moments where it lightens and then it kind of rebuilds and revamps up, and you can hear it coming behind you, and you hear that guttural growling just coming from this tunnel, coming closer. You begin to hear splashing and water being tossed about things, and then
so just to be clear, that hole that had the little red glow down at the bottom, there was no water in there.
Correct. There was no water. The whole time you're trying to move, Jasmine is crying profusely. She's trying to bear weight on that leg to help move the process along, but every step is agony, and you can almost hear the bones in that leg every time she steps on it kind of grind together. You look back, Bernard, and you see that every step she takes, there's this pulse of blood that's coming out of this wound. And without properly looking at it, you're not sure, but you would guess that she has some piece of bone or something is very much not lined up correctly. Something is probably underneath her pant leg jutting out, and she is beginning to have blood drip down onto the floor as she goes. Her hands and arms are covered in blood where she's been trying to stopgate this massive wound. So you round the corner, and Bernard, make me a spot hidden.
24 on a 69, so hard.
Nice.
Okay. You're kind of in the front of the pack, and Nathaniel is supporting a lot of her weight, and you kind of come up to the corner right before you're going to turn to where the plane is in this little alcove, and you kind of turn to let him pass and kind of get her in front of you. And as you turn, your flashlight catches something approaching along the embankment of the hole. It is a large salamander type thing with no arms and legs, but very glistening skin, but it's massive. This tunnel that you're in is big enough to fit a plane, and it is grinding against the sides of it as it kind of crawls and slithers its way, using bits of rock to kind of wedge a bit of its body in and hurtle itself forward, and is glistening, very wet. And it, as you turn, you catch a whole mouthful of teeth, and it lets out this massive roar. And I need you to make a sanity check, please. You, at the sound of the roar, hasten your movement towards the plane.
50 on a 54.
Okay. So you take 1 point of sanity damage just for the shock of seeing something this large coming at you. But nothing too severe. You're able to shake it off and continue moving. If anything, moving with more haste than you had been previously. Okay, so you guys are headed to the plane to try to barricade yourselves into the plane.
Yeah, I was thinking it was a small area that would hold us all, and based on sound, I thought something huge was coming, so try to get into a small area I couldn't get into.
Okay. So you guys...
But this fucker's just going to eat the whole plane, so...
So you guys round the corner. You're able to get her up into the plane and into the cargo area. You're able to kind of sit back there with her and support her. And you're able to come into the plane and kind of move into the cockpit area and kind of get yourself either, you can sit in the seats or you can kind of sit between them. There's a moment where the plane kind of settles under the new weight of you guys, but you can still hear the rumbling approaching. It hasn't quite made it to the opening of your alcove. How much was your success on the spot hidden? Was it regular? Hard? I will say you noticed that the eyes of this creature were a milky white.
While we are in the plane, I am going to rip off a sleeve or something and start trying to give first aid to Jasmine's leg.
Okay.
I'll throw the bag over to Bernard / Evan and say, look in there. There might be something. And I'm going to the cockpit area of this plane, so I got a window to look out. Mm-hmm. Got my gun ready and my flashlight and standing guard.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to do?
Is there a way to shut the door?
Yes, and you have shut the door behind you as you moved in because you had clarified earlier that you would like to be able to. Yes, the door does shut. Anything else? Okay. So there's a moment as you're hearing the scrubbing against the sides of the wall. You're able to kind of tell based on how far it was previously and how much you're hearing, how close it is. And there's a moment just before you know it's about to crest that corner where all of you kind of catch your breath because you know right now there's a chance it's either going to turn in or it's going to keep going. And silence falls in where you are as you see the snout of this thing come forward. And you looking out the window, you can see it much clearer. It has these milky white eyes that are small, nearly closed slits, but there is like this milky film across them. But this mouth that takes up the majority of its head, almost like it could unhinge all the way back, almost snake-like. The body has these muscle groups that are separated from each other, unlike a worm where it's kind of like one whole thing and it slithers. It looks like these muscle groups actually can kind of independently pull forward, and it's almost like army crawling through.
That's really disgusting.
Yeah, so make me a sanity check.
Wanna.
This is too bad. You're going to go insane and you're going to like it.
Extreme success. Okay. Finally, something happened for Nathaniel.
You still take 1 point of sanity damage.
I refuse.
That's too bad. I have control of your character sheet, should I choose so. But you have this moment where you're looking through this kind of dirty paned glass, very aged and yellow with time, but you're able to see that it is very slick, glistening. You do see something to the effect of gills on the side, but they look more fibrous than gills. Almost like they have these protruding fibers coming out of them. And you can see it's kind of pauses, and it kind of nestles its head against the far wall that's kind of flat, and then it nestles its head and realizes there's nothing there, and takes a moment and just kind of tilts its head back and forth, and you see the eyes kind of flex, but not open any further, just kind of flex. And you see it kind of tilt its jaw towards where you're going.
I'm going to look back, because it has just occurred to me that this thing is functionally blind. At least that's my belief. And it is hunting on smell or sound or something like that. So I'm looking back at everybody. Shh.
And there's a
But without making that noise. But I did that for the folks who'll be listening on podcast.
There's a tense moment where the back jaw is leaned towards you, almost like it's straining into the area. And you can tell based on the size of the head that it would struggle to get to you in the plane. It wouldn't be impossible, but it would struggle. Even making the turn in would be a struggle. But given its size and enough force... But you see it kind of slither forward, passing the alcove. And you see it move forward into the further tunnel, and you hear a large crash. And then the rumbling begins to become further and more distant and less consistent, as silence falls on the three of you inside this plane.
Okay. It's past. I think we get out of here and go back the way it came.
I don't like that idea, but that's probably the best idea we have.
Well, I'm not going the way it went.
Yeah.
And we still got to find a way out of here. Otherwise, we're trapped in this little plane. It's safe and it's comfortable. But eventually, we're dead here.
I agree.
All right. So at this point, I'm going to come out of the cockpit and see if there's any assistance I can give on the medical side that they're working on.
Okay. So one of you guys can make me a first aid or a medical roll, with aid of the other one giving you a bonus die.
I got a 5 on the first roll against a 50.
Nice. So you can tell that she has severely fractured her leg. But judging by the wound, she could not have sustained it in the plane crash. There's no way she'd have made it as far as she did. Upon further inspection, because you had such a good roll, you can tell that this seems to be some kind of very close quarters firearm injury that has shattered her. What's the bone at the top? The femur? The one in your thigh? Yes. That has shattered her femur. Luckily, she is bleeding profusely, but it hasn't seemed to hit any major arteries. But she has a large size wound. And bits of bone are protruding out. You are able to, with that roll, pull out some of the more problematic pieces, and get her pretty well splinted, bound. But you know that if she doesn't receive medical attention soon, those bone shards that are now loose inside that cavity will become very problematic very soon. And the more she moves it, the more chance of further damage and or hitting an artery becomes. You know that she is in dire need of medical attention, more than you could provide.
Okay.
Okay. And in all that, you're able to help her by, giving him the supplies, holding her steady, giving her something to bite on as he tries to bind this wound, because she's in an immense amount of pain. But she tramps, she gets through it. She's able to bite down on a piece of wood and keep from screaming, because I'm fairly certain, given your thought process on the monster, that
I'm trying to keep everybody as quiet as possible.
Right. And she tries to oblige. There is quite a bit of grunting and groaning, but she does try to oblige and not scream.
Can she move?
She probably shouldn't, but we don't have much choice. We're dead either way. We stay here, we're dead. If we move, we're dead. May as well die moving.
I agree, but if we're still searching for a way out, should we leave her here till we find the way?
And
so
come
we
back
can limit
for
her movement?
It's the same thing we talked about with Evan earlier. If
I agree.
Anything else, maybe try to fashion some sort of splint or crutch out of something we have so she can keep weight off of it.
Blankets on this. Did we throw some blankets in the bag that we packed with emergency supplies from our plane?
Sure, we'll say that there's at least one good-sized blanket or emergency type
Then
blanket.
I want to look for 2 long spars of metal from the disassembly of this plane.
Okay.
That we could lay on the ground with the blanket and then fold the edges of the blanket over it so that when her body goes on there, kind of holds the...
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Cleopatra through the tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with a little bit of MacGyvering, you are able to make a makeshift word for that thing that I know has a word.
Stretcher?
Stretcher. That's the word. And you're able to get her on that. She's beginning to look kind of pale, a little shaky.
All right. We're going to go to the right up here, back to that hole, and then to the tunnel that Jasmine was coming down. Look, I'm happy to do the heavy work here, but it seems to me like maybe you and Evan ought to carry her and leave my hands free with a gun.
That's fine.
As you say that, she pipes up in a very kind of weak voice. She's like, "No, you can't go back that way. It dead ends into some kind of water or pool, and it's so much faster in the water. I was trying to swim across to see if I could find a way out, and I just you can't go in the water. It can see you in the water. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like it knows where you are in the water. No matter how I tried to hide, it knew. So we can't go back that way. We can't."
So while she's talking, I get a memory. And it occurs to me, and I'm going to kind of look at her face, the way she's talking, accounting for, of course, the serious injury and all that. But is this the old Jasmine or the drugged up Jasmine?
This is the old Jasmine, much more skittish. Body language is back to kind of hunched. She doesn't seem to be the vivacious sex kitten that you saw at the later half of your plane ride.
Jasmine, what happened on the plane? You went back into the back with the stewardess to verify that there were parachutes back there. There was no parachutes on that plane. Well, 2, but none for us. What happened back there? Because you came out a whole different person.
It's all so foggy. I walk back there, and she started saying something. I don't know what she said, but then she touched my head, and then I don't know, everything's so blurry. I remember it was like I was talking to you, but I wasn't. It was like I don't know, it felt like I was reading a script, but I didn't want to read it. I kept saying things, and they sounded like me, but they weren't me. And then all of a sudden I'm falling onto a very hard floor, and I began to try to find where I was, and then I was in dark, and I don't know.
All right. Now, let's talk about that water you tried to swim across. What was on the other side of it?
I only made it a couple feet in, and the water level dropped off so sharply I wasn't prepared, and I thought I could just kind of wade and keep the water like below knee level and see how far I could get out, but I couldn't. The water just all of a sudden was so deep and so dark and cold, and I I didn't get very far before I heard it. And then I saw it, and then it was anything I could do to just get out of the water. Please don't make me go back to the water, please.
I just hate to consider that water a dead end. You know, if there's something on the other side of that pool of water, it could be the way out. And right now, that worm thing has gone the other way. We may never have another chance to see. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that Jasmine here says that ain't the way to go. But she had no light.
We could leave her and one of us try to go in and see what is in there at least.
Evan, you stay here with Jasmine. How about the two of us go?
Okay.
Check this out. So we're going to carefully, silently, sneakily step down out of this plane, make our way back to the room with the abyss, and then down that other tunnel and see what we can see with our flashlights.
Okay. So you trudge back the way that you came, noticing that the area is now much more damp. A lot more water has been deposited on the floor and the walls. A lot of the skeletons, the various things that were on the ground seem to have been tossed aside. And you're able to make it back to the opening where you found Jasmine. And looking out, you do see that there is some sort of pool traveling in front of you. It does turn off and veer in one direction. With your flashlights, though, you can see that there's only about 4 or 5 feet before the water level does drop. It's almost like a small dock made of stone that's leading into this very large basin of water.
I think it's too unknown. I sure don't like the thought of going the other way or down that big hole, but I mean, you can see, she's right, it drops off deep, and who knows where that thing circles around to.
What happens when you shine the light into it?
The water is very, very dark, very murky. You can see bits of algae and things floating in the water, but the water seems to be behaving as you would expect water to behave.
You said algae?
Yeah, little bits of
So
fungal
this
growth.
is getting sunlight.
Doesn't have to be.
GM's nightmare, dude who knows something.
Lots of
Hey,
plants grow at the bottom of the ocean where there's no
did
sunlight.
we look to see if there was like an emergency raft on that plane back there?
No, but there was not. You guys looked for
I
all
said emergency supplies,
Right,
so I
it was
assumed
not.
that would have been...
There are some decently
We
buoyant
could've taken
seats.
a journey to the center of the earth raft trip down this thing. Really badass, but hey, you do your scenario your way.
I will, thank you.
All right. I don't know. You want to brave it? Look, it's certain death the other way with that thing. Oh, by this time he's probably made it to the big center room and gone down to some other hallway.
Maybe
based on what we saw-
returning.
Go ahead.
Maybe returning. Whether it's through the back of this or the front of this, we don't know.
Jeez, man. Look, what we can do is tell where it's been. The floors get all slimy with this shit.
Yeah.
So we can start going back the way we came. And if we hear that rumbling stuff, we run like hell back to the plane or whatever other hiding spot we can find. If we don't, hopefully we come back out to the main cavern and we try that other long hallway. The hallway we haven't checked. The one, by the timeshare selling room.
Okay.
The timeshare selling. contract you can never get out of.
All right, so as we go back through, I want to look down that hole a little bit and use the flashlight to shine down it. Can I see anything of note?
Make me a spot hidden roll, please.
That's a success, 45 under 65.
Okay. So what you can see down there is there's some sort of red glowing light. It is unfathomably.
It's easy for you to say.
No, it's not. It is an unfathomable.
It's really deep.
It's really deep.
I'm going to grab one of the bones from the carcasses around here, and I'm going to toss it down. And in my head, I'm going to be counting like 1001, 1002, and waiting to see if I could hear it hit the bottom.
Okay. So you toss a bone down, and you begin to count. And count. And count. And after what feels like a few minutes, you've still not heard anything hit the bottom.
I don't think we want to go that way, Professor.
Probably not.
All right, back to the plane. Gonna collect Evan and Jasmine on her stretcher. Unless you want to make a quick wheelchair with the airplane wheels.
Hey, you got the supplies. You've noted there's chairs, there's wheels.
Nah.
Okay.
And we are going to start heading back the other way. I'm going to take the point there behind me, carrying Jasmine.
Okay.
That's never a good thing.
Well, I was rolling to see if there was a chance that there was like a rolling dolly at the tool bench. You know, to like move big parts to try to help you guys out, but I rolled an 89, so there's not. Okay, so you guys collect Evan and Jasmine. Jasmine is conscious, but kind of in and out. She'll respond to you, but she's trailing off, not fully there. And you begin to make your way back to your plane, or are you making your way back to the timeshare room?
Well, we would have to go to the room where the huge...
I'm just wondering where your destination is.
Back to the hallway, the tunnel we went down to get to the room where they made their pitch to us.
Okay.
At that intersection, to our right was a workbench work area. To our left was the room that has the big hole in the sigil and the metal door. Mm-hmm. But in front of us, like straight ahead, was another tunnel we had not checked out yet.
Correct.
And so that's the way we want to go.
Okay.
Now, as we get to the main cavern room, are we still seeing the watery, slimy trail that this creature leaves?
Yeah, you definitely are still seeing this kind of slimy, thick water trail. It's on the floor, the walls, the ceiling. You can tell in areas where he's had to really push through because there are smaller areas and there's, bits of it dripping from the ceiling. It's very not pleasant.
And the hallway that we went down when they captured us, that was the one we had to step through a propeller that was blocking the hallway door or the tunnel opening. Does that look like it would prevent this huge creature from coming down that way?
As far as what you've seen, you are curious to know how it's going to look when you approach it. But you're not sure if it would have prevented him given his size. So as you reach the main cavern where your plane is, the first thing you notice is that the plane that you arrived in is now overturned. One of the wings is completely snapped off, as if it has been tossed aside like a child's toy. It is now butted up against a wall, kind of shoved into a space. And there is quite a bit of this thick water residue around this cavern. Looking over towards the tunnel with the propeller, you do notice that the propeller has been ripped, and there are bits of rock and debris, and the propeller has been tossed aside and is now resting along one of the walls as well.
Oh, jeez, dude. That's the way we were going to go. I had to make a quick look over. So we just came from the tunnel that was by the Viking longship. Mm-hmm. We're looking at the tunnel that had the propeller, but it's gone, and it appears that that's the way this creature has gone.
Correct.
There was another tunnel that was blocked by like a Spanish galleon. Mm-hmm. Is that galleon still in the way, or did this creature's passage maybe open that path?
No, the galleon still is in the way. The galleon is across from the Viking ship, and the plane that you were in has been tossed, basically partially also barricading and destroying what
so
is
it's
visible.
Actually made that
it's actually made that one less passable.
Even less passable.
Correct.
Well, we hear this thing coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are still occasionally hearing rumbles, but they're not nearly as intense as when he was very, very close.
Right. The way we got to go, and looking. So in my mind, Bernard's got the front of this litter. Evan's at the back of the litter. Jasmine is in and out of consciousness. So I'm just going to kind of whisper to Bernard at a time when I think she's kind of dozed off and low enough so that maybe Evan can't hear. I think maybe we ought to drop her in the room where the doorway is at.
Maybe. Just in case.
Yeah, I'm starting to get real uneasy about us being. I mean, we have 6 hands and 4 of them are being used to hold a litter right now.
Yeah.
And she's nearly dead weight.
Ouch.
So you guys want to proceed down the hallway that the propeller was recently in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This hallway is also slick and...
My mind is like this really watery, mucusy substance.
Similar.
Like
mm-hmm. That's very
snail
similar.
would leave behind or something.
Yeah. Little more watery than mucusy, but it definitely has some kind of tinge of
viscosity.
Something. It's a little viscous. It's like, as you continue on, you can see that the workbench and the large anchor that's at the intersection between the timeshare room and the hallway you have not gone down do seem to have been shuffled about. The workbench is very much so destroyed. The tools are strutted about. The anchor has been overturned and is kind of laying on the ground. What you do notice as you approach is that this slime trail does not proceed into the room with the sigil. And by your guesstimation, that doorway into that room is far too small. It's one of the smallest openings that you've seen so far. It's only a little bigger than, a large size human. So
this anchor, is it your stereotypical tattooed on Popeye's arm anchor with the kind of the bow at the bottom and pronged points on each end?
Yep, very much so.
If my suspicion of this thing is blind was correct, I wonder if we could set this anchor up so that one of the pointy parts was angled up in the hallway so that if we were to, cause some disturbance to bring that thing this way, it would just come down the hallway real fast and impale itself on the anchor.
I'm going to try to move the anchor.
Okay. What's your strength?
Anchory.
80.
So you're able to make a little bit of headway moving it. You're able to grab the side that would be attached to a rope to the ship, and you're able to kind of get that side and kind of walk it very awkwardly a few feet over. The other end is heavier, but you think that with enough manpower, you could feasibly move this around, but it would be taxing for anybody less, because you are a large man with quite a bit of strength. Someone smaller than you or less strong would struggle. But,
so if I was to help him with my 85 strength, could we set this anchor up as like dead center of the hallway, propped up in such a way that the pointy end would be sticking up in the air in the direction that this thing could come from?
Yeah, I definitely think you guys could move it. And in order to get it kind of nestled in a way that keeps it upright, I would need some kind of conjoined roll from the two of you. Something that you guys can do together. One with a bonus die to make this happen. Because you're asking to basically defy what would normally be the physics of something this heavy, which is that it would just topple.
All right, so we've determined we have the strength to do it. Now we have to find some other skill that
gives you the knowledge to do
I
it.
got some mechanical repair that might work here.
I can try to help with that.
What's your mechanical repair? I mean, on a scale of 1 to 100, how good do you think you are?
What's the base? 10.
Probably. I could look it up, but I've got a 30 in it.
It definitely is. Because that's what I have.
Gotcha.
You can try mechanical using the splayed about tools, the bits of rubble and debris from all the different planes and things around you to try to MacGyver some kind of support system to hold this thing in place, if you would like. One of you can roll it with a bonus die.
That would be you.
I'm going to try mechanical repair and set up this anchor trap.
Okay.
The first roll is a 96,
Yikes.
which is a fumble, but thank God for bonus dice. And that turned it into an 86, so...
Okay. So you guys are able to move it to the hallway, but you try a various number of different ways to kind of like A-frame this almost, and you're not finding the right leverage points, the right connection points to really get a solid thing. You have moved it, and you do notice that those kind of birds, they are kind of triangular shaped, so there is a bit of it that is kind of jutting up, but as far as that major pointy end of it, you're not getting it in the position that you think you need to achieve this. But you do feel like with maybe one or two other things at your disposal or some other kind of better idea that you could make this work. You just have to find the right combination. So it's not a hard no, it's just you need to give me something else that you're going to do differently to try again.
So
Start a blast.
No. So, why don't we go back to one of the planes, rip all the wiring out, because some of the wires on the planes will be thick stuff like what we had to deal with over here. We could take a few wheels, rig up a pulley, and one of us would be bait or find a way to get it in here and then pick up the anchor in such a way that it would swing into it.
Home Alone this shit. I like it.
Yeah, if we can rig something up, then one of us stand at the end of the hallway and just start making a lot of noise so it draws this creature, and when it gets close, the other one pulls the trap and we impale this fucker.
Or at least give it a nice bonk.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you guys are going to go try to get some wheels, some wiring, and create some kind of pulley system to suspend this thing in some way, or at least prop it up so that when you pull the pulley system, it causes it to kind of cascade fall and smack this thing. Okay. Do you want to try to use a different skill than your mechanical? Or are you going to try to use mechanical again?
This isn't really a mechanical repair.
It's
This is
not.
more of a general knowledge type
I would
thing.
agree. Understanding pulleys and levers, and I will take it. Just because it's so cool and I want you to do it.
So, would you rather an idea or a no?
No.
That is a 19 against a 75.
Brilliant. So using your combined strengths and then your apparent, and I'm imagining that some of these digs and things that you've gone to, you guys use a lot of these kind of makeshift pulley systems to move large amounts of dirt and, brick and things and rock out. And so you've seen them construct these kind of almost makeshift pulley systems to get things moved. And you're able to, direct him and direct Evan to...
We're ripping all the seat belts off of the plane and tying them together to make this really sturdy cord rope.
You're, with such a good roll, you're even able to kind of MacGyver up, like taking a hammer and wedging it into a chunk of a crack of a rock, and your end is held on this hammer of your rope, your makeshift rope, and so all you would have to do is kind of knock that hammer out of that, and it would cause the entire thing to swing.
You set it up in such a way that it can be triggered from the short hallway that leads into the sigil room, because that's a hallway it can't get through, apparently.
Yes.
So we could put Evan and Jasmine in the sigil room, nice and safe. You stand in the short hallway ready to trigger this thing. I'll get down to the end of the hallway where the propeller was to the big cavern and create as much freaking noise and disturbance as I can. Hopefully drawing this thing down that tunnel to us.
While I'm thinking about it, did you happen to check the fuel tank of the plane we came in on?
I didn't have that idea then. There should be gas in that. Otherwise, we would have never made it to Morocco. I don't think there.
It may have leaked out, but it's worth a shot.
Okay. You want to go back and check?
So unlike, because of this thing's... Yes.
Yes. So there's definitely gas in the tank. But I will make you have y'all make a luck roll to see if it is a substantial amount of gas or if a lot of it is leaked out and you're left with a meager amount.
Well, that luck roll will also include whether or not we find like containers that we can put it into.
I made mine.
Yeah. So there's definitely gas.
I failed mine.
That's fine. There is definitely gas, and some around these different toolboxes and benches, you're finding buckets or jugs or any number of things that you can kind of siphon out this gas with. And you're able to get yourself 2, maybe 3 gallons of this fuel out safely.
Stash it in the short hallway for now.
And then if the impaling him on the anchor doesn't completely do the trick, we douse him real quick and throw a Zippo on him.
Or if it just knocks him out or something, we can...
Fish fry.
I like it.
Okay. So, just to clarify, you have set this up so it's almost like a swinging guillotine, like in the Indiana Jones where it's kind of swinging back and forth, and you've got it pinned up so that one entrance in this hallway at that 3-way, it's going to come down from the small room through the hallway and kind of smack on the other side wall to kind of impale him as he tries to come through that. That's your...
I was imagining from the front
of fine.
Him.
That's why I wanted to clarify to be sure I understand the logistics. So you've got it suspended up, and so that when it drops, it will drop towards the room with your plane in it. Correct?
No, so the room with the plane in it, hallway goes down. We would expect him to come from that hallway.
So you're suspending it here to fall here, or here to fall down, down the hallway that you have not been down?
So, in my mind, we were suspending it like somewhere around here.
Okay.
so that it would swing this way.
Okay.
Because we believe the thing will come from this direction, going that way.
Okay.
So
I'm with you.
It will come from the south, heading north.
Yes.
Towards the cavern room.
Right.
We will set up the anchor so it swings from the north to the south, right into his fucking face.
Brilliant. Love it. Okay. So, you guys have accomplished this. It's very Home Alone, MacGyver, but you guys feel fairly certain that if the right conditions are met, this is going to pack a wallop of a punch because it is a very heavy. It took all three of you, including Evan, because Evan is decently strong as well, to get this thing hoisted up, even with the amount of levers and pulleys that you have. Just the distribution of weight made it incredibly difficult, and you know that as soon as you let go of that one linchpin point, that it's going to come crashing down with a ton of force. So, you've done that. You acquired 3 gallons of gas. You have Jasmine and Evan waiting in the sigil room. And what would you like to do now?
You got a lighter?
Do I have a lighter?
Yeah, one of you has a lighter.
Yeah, I got one.
All right.
I'll pass it to you.
So I think I'm going to go south a little farther down that hallway, grabbing some of the tools from the overturned workbench.
Mm-hmm.
Hammers, pieces of sheet metal or whatever, and, I just imagine a metal spoon and a frying pan.
Y'all getting to sleep because of y'all.
Right. So I'm going to go down, 15 or 20 yards down the hallway along its mucousy trail. And I'm going to start banging. And I'm going to go like bang, bang, listen. Bang, bang, listen. And try to figure out if I can hear it coming this way. Some of the bangs, I'll even bang up against the side of the wall, thinking maybe he gets vibrations through the rock and stuff.
Gotcha. So you begin moving your way down the south tunnel. Where are you going to be? You're going to be standing back where the activation level... Okay. As you move down the south tunnel, you see that it begins to kind of curve off at one point, and enters into a room very similar to the room that your plane was in. That's open top with this inverted water muffin. Sorry, it's the only thing I can call it now. But instead of a plane residing in this large cavern, there is a nearly intact small submarine.
Is it yellow by any chance?
No, it should be, but it's not. It is small. It's not like a full-size like war submarine. It looks more like a research vessel of some kind. But it's pretty solid. There's some dings and dents and some fiddly bits missing off the outside, but all in all, it's pretty intact. But it has been forced to one side, and there is, a large opening around it leading down to another...
Still slime trail that way?
And the submarine is caked with this slime. Would you begin to do your...
And this is open ceiling. We're back to water muffin suspension.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I just feel like this big metal sub is going to do some great resonating. So I'm going to start taking the hammer and banging like hell along on it. Not interested in going further down the hallway. So I'm going to start banging. Bang, bang, listen. Bang, bang, listen.
Okay. So you begin to do this, and you do feel some resonation of this large chamber creating kind of like this echo effect where the sound vibrations are kind of banging back and forth. And it's, you ever been somewhere where it's so loud that you can feel vibrations? It's very similar to that because it's creating this almost like amplifying effect. And a couple minutes go by, maybe 2 minutes, where you're not really noticing any difference in your surrounding area. But maybe 40 yards ahead of you, some reasonable distance, but close enough, you hear a cacophony of splashing. And then a very large thud and that rumbling begin again and that come out of this darkness directly in front of you.
Okay. I'm going to fire 3 shots blindly down the hall and then start running.
Okay. Do you want to make shots?
If there's a chance of it hitting him and
There's
I
a
can do
chance
some
of
damage,
anything.
I will absolutely. Success. Hard success. Hard success.
Okay, roll me your damage. Given his size, he cannot dodge you. There's just not enough room to dodge.
So the first one did 6. The second one did 4. And the third one did 6. So 16 points of bullet damage.
Okay. So your shots ring out, and you do hear some fleshy impact on all 3 of your shots. Right. And followed by a slightly higher pitch rumble of that roar that very quickly turns into a much more malevolent. No. Is that the one that's more violent or less violent?
Malevolent just means it's kind of evil.
Oh, yes. A much more malevolent. See, I can't say it, but that word. A much more hearty, much more dark roar. With tones of growling and hissing behind it. It sounds like 3 or 4 different voices or sounds emanating down this hall. But the tone that this creature has taken sounds much more aggressive now, and the rumbling becomes a little more fervent. Are you going to take off running? Are you going to stand your ground?
No. I'm going to take off running, but it's that kind of jog running Indiana Jones looking back over my shoulder. I want to make sure that this thing is coming.
Okay. As you begin, you kind of duck around the sub and you're kind of taking a wide turn so that you can see more behind you. And as you begin to take that turn, you see that telltale glint of its nose coming around the corner.
Okay.
So you have just kind of crested this corner. You've caught a glimpse of the nose of this thing not very far behind you.
And coming fast.
And coming very fast.
Then I'm running down the tunnel, straight past the opening where Bernard is. And I'm it's coming, here it comes. And I run right past it, underneath the suspended anchor and out towards the main cavern.
Okay.
Hoping that this anchor stops him, because if it doesn't, I'm booked.
Okay. So as you begin to run and yell out that, it's coming, and you hear a very metallic grinding sound, as what you can only assume is this large creature trying to make its way around this submarine. You hear it kind of slam against the wall to the other side of that cavern that you were just in, and another loud, angry roar comes from it, and you hear it coming down, beginning to feel the rumbles much more intensely. Evan is cowering in a corner with Jasmine as far back into the alcove as he can to just be as far away from this thing as possible. And you take off running, duck underneath the anchor and into the first cavern where your plane has been tossed aside. And you're standing in the alcove kind of doorway waiting to pull the lever to let the anchor fall.
Mm-hmm.
So you begin to hear it very, very close. And after a moment, you see the nose of it begin to weasel its way through. It does not take a moment to stop and appraise the opening to its side. It seems very intent upon the noise being made by your companion here. So, I will take a skill, but it's either a skill or a luck roll of when to pull this lever to get the max amount of damage. I'll take a luck roll, But if you have a skill that's higher that you can justify using, I will allow it.
I have no skill that's at 85. So.
Dude, your luck is amazing.
Yeah.
And he's used none of it.
But you can't push a luck roll.
It was a trade-off with my 20 constitution.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. 43.
Yes.
Okay. So as you see its head kind of disappear into the tunnel in front of you, you kind of take a moment and you count like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, because you've kind of tracked how long this tunnel is and based on his body, how far into it he needs to be. And when his body kind of shoves into this tunnel, the sounds of your friend begin to get very muffled due to his just sheer size taking up this tunnel. But you wait a moment, and when you're pretty sure that he's in the right spot, you wait just a hair second longer and you grab that hammer and you yank it out and the cable goes and there's a moment where it's kind of hanging in the balance where you're just watching your pulley system and hoping and praying to God that it just
cinematically goes. We're watching the cable go.
On the other side, you are watching as this nose of this thing is coming directly at you, and you can see the anchor hanging, and you begin to hear the rope very, very fastly moving. And as you hear it coming, you begin to see the anchor just take its initial first swing down, and you're watching, and you realize it's going to be close. It's either going to miss or it's going to hit. He either did it too soon or just right. But as you watch it come down and you're hearing it, you see that just as his nose begins to crest the opening, that anchor comes swinging down and manages to hook right into his mouth and through the top of his skull, lodging itself into the rock above. You hear this fleshy thud, and you see the back of the body of it that's still taking up a decent amount of your space begin to just twitch and then begin to kind of settle and thump over.
I'm going to...
We did it!
Going to walk back into where Evan is and I'm going to say, Evan, can I borrow that letter opener?
Yeah, sure. And he hands it over to you.
I'm going to walk back to the tunnel where the thing is. Is there enough room for Nate to pass?
Not currently.
Yeah, that thought hit me right after you said he was dead and pinned to the top of the wall. I was like, we may have just been completely separated.
But a free idea here. You realize that around you are various tools such as saws and things like that that would be better equipped than a mail opener to do whatever it is you're about to do. Okay, that's a freebie because I do not want you to roll for a mail opener down the side of this thing.
I was going to go in through the rectum.
Rectum shit, it killed him.
The rectum temple.
Rectum temple. Nice.
So I will get to work carving out some sort of path.
You're going to try to go through the main body, or are you going to try to like go along the wall and kind of slice bits off so he can kind of squeeze his way between the body and the wall?
I would like to see what's in its stomach, too.
Okay.
Brilliant.
So you're going to like try to like gut it?
Anthropologist, archaeologist, and you just give you, I've got to see what this...
What's he been eating? What's his life like?
Okay. So you're going to try to gut it and see what comes out of his stomach, or are you going to try to reunite with him first?
I will go along the wall first, and then the idea is once we have that transit, I'm going to try to figure out what's in its stomach.
Okay. So you sit there for a moment, Nate, and you're like super excited about, yeah, we did it. And it begins to dawn on you that you are now on the wrong end of this thing, unable to transfer back. And you kind of stay there for a few minutes and you're trying to like, you're looking around like, what the fuck do I do? Like, I can't, like, do I need to go around? Like, what am I going to do? And then you begin to hear some kind of noise. And you begin to see one of the gills on the side begin to kind of tear away from the body in these slices as...
First thing I did was bring my gun up because for a second there, I think it's still alive.
Spawning. And then a small amount of light comes through, and you can see the face of Bernard, who has a saw in hand and is slowly, like, filleting this fish for you till you can have kind of a... And it's going to be a tight squeeze, given both of you are...
Tight, disgusting squeeze. I had to squeeze between a rock and a slimy place.
Yes.
Okay.
But you are able to carve away enough of this entity to make a passable shimmy between the wall and it. If you choose so, you can reunite with your compatriots. You come out the other side. Pretty gross.
Oh, geez,
you're both
that was
pretty
disgusting,
gross.
Man. Just...
You're both a little fishy, a little slimy.
While we're here, let's open up the stomach and see if there's anything useful in it. Or maybe a baby.
Maybe a baby?
Maybe a baby.
All right. Jeez, man. This, all right, do it, man. But, we've gotten rid of the danger, but we're still trapped down here.
We are, but there might be something helpful in there.
Check it out.
I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me.
Looked like Jasmine got shot, so maybe it swallowed a gun.
Okay, so you're able to... You're not looking for a ton of precision here. You just... Basic fish anatomy, want to run it up the back or on the bottom side and see what spills out. Smells worse on the inside kind of thing.
Now, see... I've spent a great deal of time in Panama and South and Central America, and due to differences in culture, they are very up to date on lizard and reptile anatomy because, like, the one tribe uses frog skin to make poison darts and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They use everything that they have access to. So I am pretty sure that I have a general idea of where the stomach would be and the quickest way to it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Okay. So what are you going to roll for that? If you're trying to get to the stomach in the most efficient way possible and not just gut it, and hope for the best. You gonna roll something for it? Do precision? You got all that great backstory as to why you'd be good at it.
First aid. Okay. Gills are called books.
No.
So library use.
Not at all. If anything, I would let you roll anthropology just because of your study of the cultures.
Okay.
That's as far as close
fair.
to any stretch I want to get.
So I'm going to lean in and I'm going to say, now listen here,
You're not
stomach.
intimidating the stomach.
49. My anthropology is a 50.
Nice.
So you've apparently spent enough time studying cultures to have seen them gut a few different
Salamanders.
salamanders,
Water
lizards, any number of creatures. You have a basic idea of where to start, and you're able to, within a margin of error, get to the stomach relatively easy and kind of dissect the outer stomach and allow the contents to kind of spill out onto the floor. The stomach is quite large. You both plus Evan could all fit inside the stomach. It's takes up a vast majority of its body. And once you cut it open, what spills out is this ichor of stomach acid and fluids along with bits of undigested something. It's akin to meat, but it's not something that you would readily say, oh yeah, I'm going to eat that. Like, it's the consistency of meat, but not meat that you've seen. But also coming out is bits of wood, rocks, bone, a shoe.
What kind of shoe?
An old leather boot, like knee-high length. So there's some various things in there that are not edible nor digestible that seem to be residing in it. You do notice
Why are you so angry?
You do notice that as you were dissecting the stomach, just due to lack of knowing the anatomy, that it seems to have some kind of like dual stomach system, and you slice through both of them, and so it kind of emptied, but you can kind of see a membrane between the two, and it seems to have some sort of dual stomach system. And as best you can tell, a lot of that trash that's come out has come out of the first stomach, and a lot of the ichor has come out of the second stomach.
Does it have a swim bladder?
It's something akin to it, yes. In the relative shape and structure of a swim bladder, in where you'd anticipate it to be, yes, but it does not resemble swim bladders that you are used to seeing in other aquatic beings.
What color is the unseen meat?
It's a purplish gray, but fibrous, like muscle tissue.
Sanity roll, purplish gray meat?
No.
No?
No, I feel like, if you were eating this kind of shit in Panama, it's not really any skin off your back at this point.
Okay. I didn't say I was eating it. I said the indigenous people use.
Yeah, but if you were going to go as far as to say that you knew enough about it to do something, you've obviously watched it a time or two, so we're going to go ahead and make it canon that you ate weird shit in Panama.
Okay.
Too late. You can't do anything.
Too
She
late.
said the word canon.
It's canon. You'd be eating some weird shit. Okay, so you have disemboweled this being. Its stomach contents are loaded on the floor, and all has gone quiet.
Does it have teeth?
Yes.
How sharp are they?
They are razor sharp. You have to slide back through the opening you made to assess them further, but from what you both have seen, just with it gnashing its jaws in your directions, very sharp.
Okay. All right, Nate. Nothing in the stomach useful. Where do we go from here?
Out. But how?
But how?
We could circle back around to heating up the door.
We have gas and flame now.
We have gas and flame. Did we try the electricity last time, or was that when we cut off?
You did try the electricity and you ended up frying the circuitry of the door panel mechanism on your side.
But then we were going to try to just heat up the door.
You did not try that. Well, you did not get a chance to because the scream emanated.
So we could try to heat up the door and pop it out. We could go and explore unmolested, hopefully at this point. See where that pool leads to.
I'll tell them all about the submarine.
Okay.
That sounds sort of hopeful, but how would we use it?
Hey, there's water down that other way, too, but we're not moving that submarine. The only way I think we could use that submarine is there's some way to stop that vortex effect going on with the water that seems to be keeping it from falling in on our heads. What about this big drain in this room with the sigil around it? You know, when they first started talking about the gatekeeper and sacrificing us to it, and our sacrifice was going to allow them to open up a portal that their god would come through or whatever. don't know. So in my mind, I was like, we're going to get tossed down this grate in this hole. But I mean, look at it. That's not big enough for this thing. So what's the purpose of this grate?
I don't know. Maybe this wasn't the gatekeeper.
Oh, that's fucked up. No, that has to be the gatekeeper, man. We can't.
But why would they have a grate to nothing?
There's a way to flood this chamber. That's where water rises from.
Maybe. Is there anything in this room that looks like controls for something like that?
No, there doesn't seem to be any kind of control boards, any wayward buttons or levers, no.
Is there any sign of water, like dried algae or anything on the walls of the hole?
No. Seems pretty dry in here.
I don't know, man. I think it's worth investigating. So maybe we hold off on the heating up the door idea. Do a little exploring.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in the heating the door thing having the effect we want. You know, this gasoline's going to burn fast. You know, there's a way we can get a slow burn on this thing. The gasoline's going to flare away before enough of that metal is heated through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let's make a beeline for the submarine. I want to see.
Maybe there's something useful in it. And from there, we might keep going down that tunnel and see what's down there. And so I don't think we're getting Jasmine out past this thing.
Not right now.
So we have Evan staying here and take care of Jasmine while we go. If we find a way out, then we'll figure out how to get enough of this water weasel cut away to get Jasmine past.
Yeah.
So the tunnel leading down to the submarine is relatively free.
Okay, enough of him had passed by that way.
There's a bit of tail, but he tapers off almost like a tadpole kind of shape. And
oh, you didn't tell me he was cute.
He's not.
Okay.
He's grotesque.
All right. Still think we leave her here till we find what we're going to do, and then we haul her around.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right, down to the submarine.
The submarine. Okay. So you approach the submarine. You can see that it has been shifted. You can see where the ground beneath it has like large gouges where the bottom has been shifted out of the way again. Up on the top of the submarine is one of those large porthole doors that has the spinning handle. And with a bit of maneuvering, you are able to climb up onto it. Feels sturdy. Like I said, it feels mostly intact. And you could attempt to enter the submarine. We will
attempt to enter the submarine.
Okay. So make me strength rolls, please.
Both?
How about one with a bonus? Because I'd assume you both try to turn the handles together. Because it's a very large turnstile hammer.
Success, 60 under 85.
Okay.
And the bonus was a 6 too.
Yeah. So you are able to get some purchase on it and get it turned. It is very stiff. It has not been opened, but with some maneuvering, you're able to get it and you're able to open it up. And you can see down inside that it is a newer submarine. So it has a lot of the accoutrements that new ones would have, large panel boards, screens and all kinds of things. You do see some blinking lights of some rudimentary power. Doesn't seem to be completely powered up, but there is some kind of auxiliary power.
All right, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look for two things. Are there any dead bodies in here?
Yes, so there is two dead bodies inside. One is of a young woman who is hunched up underneath of the center command at the front of the submarine. And then there is an older gentleman that is towards the back on some kind of seating that's built into the system that is clutching some kind of book. And they are not fully decomposed. These, by Bernard's best estimate, would only be maybe a couple months old.
Probably being locked in here to dry air, probably.
And there is a palpable stench inside.
So, the other thing I'm going to look for is pulling out my little notebook and flipping to the page. I'm looking around to see, are there any logos or emblems on this thing that look like that sigil?
Okay. So you don't see any logos that are akin to that sigil. You do see some branded tech. The company is unknown to you. It's hold on, I can't remember what the technology company is. Statham Corp.
Is it spelled like Stat Ham?
Yes, Statham Corp.
All right. I think I'm going to check out the control panel because I'm just a whiz at submarines. But
yeah. So the control panel seems mostly intact. There is some damage. But all in all, it seems relatively intact. Like I said, there's only a few flashing lights, auxiliary lights, some warning flashing lights, but most of it is not powered up currently.
Hey, Bernard, that dead guy back there, he's holding something.
I'll check out his hands.
So he is holding a small book. You would recognize this as any field researcher's kind of note-taking book. And he seems to be clutching it to his chest. The rigor mortis setting in, holding it rather firmly to him.
I'm gonna pry it out of his cold, dead hands and read it.
Okay. So you are able to, with a bit of effort, to release it from his grasp. Flipping through it and taking a little bit of time to read it, you see that it seems that him and a young girl named Mary, who you assume is the young lady that is also dead inside the submarine, were researching about a society called the Talpers. Talpeur. It was hypothesized, or in mythology basically, that there was this underground civilization of a subset of humanoids that evolved underground, taking on different features, different evolutionary traits that were residing below the surface. And while most people brought this up to hogwash, there had been some developments that were causing it to become a concern to Statham Corp. Statham Corp sent this young man, who never names himself, and Mary to go look into a couple of different things. The first being that they had seen a multitude of missing persons, missing vessels over the last several decades, dating back to, as far as he could find, a couple hundred years ago, in 3 separate areas of the ocean. Just off the coast of Morocco, just below Greenland, and the Bermuda Triangle. And that geographically, that these all line up to a perfect equilateral triangle. But that at all 3 of these points, there had been multiple reports of ships going missing, submarines going missing, planes going missing, and no one had been able to find hide nor hair of them. until recently when something sprouted from the surface that contained several dead bodies along with some basic humanoid person, very pale and pallid, eyes very underdeveloped, and very different from your standard human. This was brought to Statham Corp's attention. Statham Corp works in a lot of different subsections of the world, mostly under pseudo companies and things like that. From what you can tell, there's a lot of shell companies that he talks about having to do business through to be able to get the funding he needs to run his research. The last couple entries, he talks about having attempted to find something in the other two locations and coming up with nothing, but upon investigating the site outside of, just off the coast of Morocco, was able to find a plane that was being pulled down through a whirlpool, a small passenger plane, and was able to follow this event. The next entry talks about having been pulled through this whirlpool and deposited in some kind of dark cavern system, and he details what he's seen, and that the people that were in this cavern system were very surprised to have seen them, that they were expecting people at a later date, things like that. But through a series of different tactics, him and Mary were able to enter their submarine and hold out there for quite a while. But he knew once the power went out that the locks would disengage and they would be found by whoever it is that they have encountered down here. His very last entry talks about how he hears rumblings in the night, he hears people screaming, he's not sure what's going on, but the rushing of water is driving him insane, and that the only thing left to do is to end it before it's ended for them. And that is the last entry.
Are there any visible wounds?
There are. Mary seems to have multiple stab wounds to the neck region. And from what you can tell of the older man, he seems to have committed suicide in a similar fashion. But they seem to be all self-inflicted.
Man, Nate.
Detective in me goes murder-suicide immediately. He killed her. He killed himself. Poorly, by the way.
Wait, the ones on her don't appear to be self-inflicted? Just his? Okay.
Hers almost seem like they have some defensive things. Her hands seem to have some wounds to them. And these are over a month old, but you can definitely see some puncture marks in her hands and forearms. It would seem as if she had been attacked.
Yeah, I guess he did. It says here that he wanted to end it. I'm guessing he ended it for both of them. Does the sub have a GPS?
Yes, but it is currently not powered on. But you can see some sort of sonar, radar, instrument panel.
Yeah, this thing might have like an emergency beacon. You know, ships lost at sea, turn on the beacon, people come and rescue you.
I'm trying to figure out, would there be something that would be like noticeable to somebody who had never been on a submarine? Because that's my problem with, like, where would I look for it?
It's in the manual. I started rummaging through. I'm looking for, even, multi-billion-dollar military aircraft. Sometimes just have a checklist of things you're supposed to do and check when certain things happen. So I'm rummaging through any place that looks like it might hold documentation, and I'm looking for the owner's manual.
Okay. Make me a spot hidden roll. Both of you.
I'm going to re-roll that one because it was cocked. I got 33.
I failed, but I'd like to push the roll.
Okay.
Wrong. And I still failed. So I don't know what the consequences of that are other than time.
It's really just time. I mean, there's not much that can go wrong with this.
Mine was a hard success. 33 against 69.
Okay.
Nice.
So while you don't find some, like large Mayday button, you do manage to, before Nate can find it, to find kind of like a operator's manual. That's just some basic understandings of some of the controls. And it does talk about, main power can maintain for X amount of days, blah, blah, blah. Auxiliary power is capable of maintaining for X number of months, things like that. And that it does, in fact, when auxiliary power is on, provide a homing signal to its base of sorts. Everything you're reading in this does imply that it is a private research vessel. This is not a government issue one. It seems to be privately owned by a company, by the Statham Corp. Because you see a lot of, here at Statham Corp, we value your, that kind of stuff. You do find that there are like emergency procedures to restart the generators in the event of catastrophic meltdown. But they do require fuel.
No, you said meltdown. Is this a nuclear submarine?
In the event of some kind of catastrophic failure, it gives the reboot power procedures, and it talks about adequate fuel levels, adequate spark, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And by your best guess, you probably don't have the right kind of fuel, but you probably have enough fuel to make something happen.
Just use the jet engine fuel that we just took out of that plane and see if we can get these generators started up.
Before we do that, let's see if we can figure out what we would do from there. Because if we put the fuel in, start the generators, and use all the fuel, and then figure out a way to get that water muffin knocked out, we'll still have no fuel. Whereas if we keep the fuel for a little bit, and
I agree, we gotta have a plan before we start running the fuel.
Are the generators diesel or?
Yeah. Just for a lack of, I don't know any other way that they would be.
You should really stop asking questions you don't want to hear the answer to.
Yeah, it's not specifically stated as diesel, but it seems to be some kind of secondary power source that can be used in the event of main power failure. Is that there is generators on board that can be run off gasoline.
Would I, from my anthropology or archaeology, know of, or occult, know of the Tauper or have heard of it before?
Make me a roll on one of those bad boys. What you rolling so I know what kind of information to give you?
What's the best thing to roll? Archaeology. Failed.
Yeah, as far as you know, nobody has found any remains or inclinations of any kind of underground civilization.
So, did you read that book out loud or, convey the contents to it? Or all I know so far is the last entry said he ended it all.
Probably at least passed it to you after I got done with it so you could have a look.
So,
Same with the owner's manual.
We got the water weasel out there, but where are these people they said they ran into?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but...
So the notes said that they ran into the people who were expecting people down there.
But not one of the Tauper.
No. So far, the only inclination of the Taupers is that one was found surfaced in some kind of sunken airplane.
Gotcha. So you ran into Maggie, corporate lawyer, and those folks. and then felt the need to barricade themselves against those folks.
Folks with all the guns.
So this doesn't give me any indication of why the water is doing what it's doing above us.
Correct. He does make note of it, that it's a strange phenomena that he has not had a chance to research given the fact that he has barricaded himself in a submarine. But he did make note that he noticed the strange properties of the water being suspended above this cabin.
All right, hear me out here. We go back to the plane. And we rip off a large piece of fuel line. Then we take it like a straw and we stick it up through the upside down water muffin. And then the water up there flows down through the straw and starts to fill this area.
I don't know that the plane we were on would have that much fuel line, but between all the planes and all the other things, we can probably find enough to try that.
Okay. So you guys want to try to scrounge around and find...
Like the ships, they probably got some kind of bilge system, which would have had tubing and...
The submarine would definitely have a pump.
Right, but we want to keep the submarine intact.
Maybe.
Unless
Probably.
Your plan was to drown us. My plan was, let's
drown.
get some water in here so the submarine becomes useful. Put the gas in the submarine, crank up the generators, and hopefully it's just long enough to get us to the surface. And maybe get its emergency beacon close enough that somebody's actually hearing it.
Okay.
Okay, so you guys are going to try to go around and find tubing, large barrel tubing. You know, you're not like pissant bullshit, but some large barrel PVC piping, different things like that. Okay, so you guys have an unlimited amount. Well, not unlimited, but you have several hours to scrounge around all these different wreckages. And through the use of a lot of duct tape and a lot of kind of jerry-rigging things together and sealing up holes and stuff like that, you are able to manage to make a decently sized inverted water muffin straw that you can attempt to...
All right, so before we do that, we need to get these two dead bodies out of this submarine and two live bodies into it.
Correct.
And so then we wedge this thing in there and hopefully we start filling this cavern. Then we climb into the submarine, seal it up, gas up the generator.
Bob's your uncle.
Crank it up. Get this thing. We got the user's manual, probably use that to just figure out the most basic of, if you pull back on this thing, we're going up. And if
Yeah, there's some basic controls.
While we are here, I'm going to take a minute, go through the owner's manual, looking for how to make it rise.
Okay. Yeah, you can find basic operational, leaning and different things of how to steer it. It's a little vague, but you get the basic gist of how to do it. You do think it's probably going to have a learning curve when you're out in open ocean, but you feel like, decently confident that you have a good handle on it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
That's the plan.
After removing the two bodies, which was difficult given the rigor mortis, and it was kind of gross.
Do we have to break some bones to
definitely
straighten her out so she fit up through the...
Yeah, which Bernard was very helpful in making sure that, we try not to desecrate the dead bodies as much as possible, but, at the end of the day, they got to move. And you guys are able to remove them. Getting Jasmine in posed quite a bit of trouble. But eventually you were able to lower her down.
Were there any better medical supplies on the set?
There are some medical supplies on this stuff. It's still basic first aid, but you did find some antibiotics, some painkillers, things that you can definitely give Jasmine to kind of help ease, but she is
That's the only
faltering.
Can we kind of extend the window of she makes it out alive using the other medical stuff?
Yeah. So you are able to make her more comfortable and to stave off maybe some infection. But she is, her pulse is kind of listing. It's weak, but she's barely conscious. A lot of it's more of just kind of errant eye movements. So her being lowered while she probably felt a good amount of pain was not super responsive to it. Evan was helpful in getting her down and getting everybody situated. You guys found a way to kind of almost strap her in to keep her from being jostled too much. And you guys are able to kind of take that straw and take the weightier end and put it on the ground and kind of force it up into this suspended water. And after a few moments, you begin to see water flooding into this basin that you're sitting in, and you're able to scramble into your submarine and reseal. And once the water level begins to crest the top of the submarine and it's getting closer to connecting, you guys start up the sequence for the generators. And it takes a couple tries, and you can get a little concerned, but you are able to, after a couple times, get that generator going, which powers up basic support functions. And there's a moment where you're waiting for the two bodies of water to connect. And when they do connect, there is a very strange sensation. Almost as if you were to step through a portal on the ground that inverted and made you upside down. The feeling of changing your gravity so distinctly that when these two hit, it feels almost like gravity gets flipped. And you go from feeling weighted down to being sucked up. Just like when you threw the rock up, and as soon as it hits that current, it begins to pull the submarine up, and it's very tumultuous at first. So I need some kind of piloting, navigation, something to see if you can break free of this whirlpool, or else it's going to just pull you wherever it may go. I would take...
I intimidate this damn sub into doing what we want.
I would take library use for the sheer fact of you have the owner's manual. And if you can read fast enough and retain enough that you could problem solve your way out of this.
What about law?
No.
Okay, library use will be mine. I have no...
I want you both to make some kind of roll.
That's fair. I'm looking for the best one I can come up with, a good reason for using.
Okay.
Just punch the controls.
I'm going to go with handgun because I'm going to try and shoot the submarine.
Do you have anything in driving, navigation?
I've got 20 in drive auto.
Natural world.
So, drive auto, or if you'll accept an argument for mechanical repair, in order to mechanically repair things, you got to understand how mechanical stuff works. And so using some of that knowledge, like, to turn your wheels into a skid and not try to turn out of the skid,
No,
that kind of thing.
Roll it.
That's a fail.
Okay.
I rolled a 33 on my 40 library use.
Okay. So.
Could I push my roll?
Yeah.
What's the penalty?
Yeah, what would be the...
How are you going to push it? What are you going to do differently?
So first I was taking the controls and doing what I thought would get us out. When that doesn't work, I just start. It's kind of like when you're playing a video game and you're not sure how to play it and your buddy's beating the hell out of you, and so you just start pushing a bunch of buttons and hoping you magically hit the great sequence of shit that gets you to finish him.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
You want to button mash your way out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
the
what's the consequence?
the penalty will be that you do not know what all these controls do. And that some of these controls can shut off power, can turn off engines, can redirect.
I'm going to take
flows.
my failure.
Okay.
Damn you.
So you're trying to do something with the controls. Bernard is flipping through the manual and you're calling out, just any number of things, Bernard, you've got to do something. And you're trying to just do something. And Bernard, you're flipping, and you're like, oh, shit. And then there's a moment where you read something and I've got it. And you push Nate out of the way and you grab the handles and you pull them back and then you slam down and hit this one button that causes some of the bilge water that builds up in a particular reserve tank of some cause, and it dumps that water out, causing the back end to cause it to change its trajectory, and you're able to force yourself at a weird angle straight out of the whirlpool. I don't know how submarines work, so don't come at me.
Do come at her. It's funnier that way.
And you're able to
break if they tell you everything you said was the exact opposite, you can say, yeah, but I told you gravity had been reversed.
Exactly. Everything's reversed that world. And you were able to break free of the whirlpool, but it is not pretty. Yeah, you guys as passengers are all thrown about pretty violently in trying to break free. So everybody takes 2 points of damage, including Jasmine, who is now fully unconscious.
Oh, Jazzy, we were going to get married.
Okay. So you have broke free of the whirlpool. You are now underwater. You can see a bit of light quite a bit above you. And through the use of the owner's manual and enough time, you're able to navigate your way back up to the surface. As you crest the water, you realize the sun is just beginning to come up. And upon a certain depth that you come up, you see that this light comes on that shows like a connection, as if it's communicating with some kind of satellite system, something, and it's making a connection to send out that homing signal. You're able to sit there at the water on the top of the surface for several hours before It
doesn't appear that this thing's in danger of sinking.
No.
It is floating nicely.
Seems as though it's floating nicely. It's maintaining its buoyancy after having done some kind of submarine magic.
So while we're waiting, then I think I'm going to pop the top, poke my head out. Is there land visible?
No.
Is the GPS back on?
Yes.
Is there a flare gun available on this thing? Then before the sun comes up too much, I'm going to pop a flare off into the air.
And you do, and you see it shoot off into the night sky. After a couple hours, you do see a large helicopter coming out of the distance, and it lowers down to the water, and it has those like water
baskets.
Sure, the little flotating things.
The
things
pontoons.
that it allows it to kind of rest on water, and is able to hover kind of there, and you are extracted out of the submarine into a helicopter that says Stantham Corp. And that's where we're going to leave it, guys.
That was awesome.
You did it.
Is that the end?
It's the end until you guys want to play it again. But I don't think you marked any of your successes.
I didn't, because I thought it was a one-shot.
It is a one-shot, but I told you that it was a one-shot with the possibility of continuing.
I don't remember that.
No, it's fine. You can go back and watch and see where your successes were.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's... Yeah, this game is the successes were, so I didn't have a lot to check. That was a lot of fun. Freaking submarine escape.
It's pretty cool.
But these fuckers are still down there. Well, one of the weird Talper folks, but the Nafran enculturated.
That's not the way I saw this going.
It's not the way I saw it going either, but that's how it went. So, like I said, there was a couple different options to get out. You chose one of the less fleshed out ways I had of getting you out, but we managed to get there. I knew there was a submarine. How you were going to get it out the water was completely up to you. I didn't expect the water muffin straw. I expected.
It's fucking brilliant, is what it was.
This was my thought. This is the only way I could feasibly see you guys
The
getting
other thing
it out.
I was going to do is figure out which way the whirlpool was spinning, and then get us all to run in the opposite direction, creating an air current that would
spin it back,
counteract it, and then water comes down. But then, we drown trying to get into the submarine.
That's true. The only way that I had originally conceived of using the submarine was that anything that was thrown into the whirlpool from the bottom gets sucked back up to the top. And if you guys had taken something such as the anchor, mounted it to your submarine, and found a way to blast it could have, with the force of the water,
just fly an anchor kite out of there.
Yeah. And kind of rip you out. There would have been a chance that it wasn't a strong enough pull. There was a chance that it could have damaged the submarine, but it was a possibility.
I think our way was better.
I like y'all's way, the straw, because when you were explaining it, I was like, there's not a reasonable reason why they can't. Okay, we'll do it.
Other than the straw immediately being pulled up in the same manner.
There was a moment where I considered making that an obstacle. But Rule of Cool ran out, and I just thought it was cooler than if it didn't, and I don't care if the physics don't check out. Doesn't matter to me. Enough of its mass was below.
Cosmic horror physics gets suspended all the time. It's non-Euclidean geometry.
In my head, there was enough of the mass of the straw below to maintain it in the gravity of where you were, and only a small portion of it was in the water that was acting in the opposite fashion. So, but I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
It was fun.
You guys survived it. And
I would not mind playing in this particular milieu. Again, I kind of like Nathaniel Young.
Nathaniel Young, police officer from New York.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez. Now, on our next episode is their honeymoon, where him and Jasmine.
Oh, yeah. Does Jasmine survive?
Yes, Jasmine survives.
Thank God.
With both legs?
No. Yes. She does suffer quite a bit of injury. She has a limp for the rest of her life, but she is able to walk with the use of certain, mobility aids.
The debriefing with Statham Corp is probably nefarious. If there's some secret organization whose only job is to fight this other secret organization, Nefren Corp. That's what's going on in my head anyway.
All right, well, that's all we have for tonight. We ran a little over. I appreciate you guys staying and hanging out as we finished up the Wrecked Temple.
That was a lot of fun for a completely homebrewed thing. You should really consider writing that up, putting it out there somewhere.
Maybe.
Just don't put AI art in it.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't put any art at all. They would be just papers.
It's
Artless.
We'll leave blank spots. It says, insert your choice of art here.
Mm-hmm.
Artless and fartless. Wait.
All right, guys. Well, thank y'all for coming. I've been your keeper, Emily. That's Steve. That's John. You can check us out on all the socials and the YouTubes and the stuff.
The thing at the place with the what's
Yeah, you hit that button and you do the things and the blah, blah, blah. Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Inverted water muffin.